All right, so is this manufactured consent? That's what we're going to be talking about today. When examining the widespread decline in fertility across much of the developed world, some observers question whether it is plausible that millions of families independently arrived at the same conclusion to have dramatically fewer children than previous generations. They argue that the consistency of this pattern across countries, cultures, and regions suggests that broader social influences may be at work. From this perspective, fertility decline is not viewed solely as a collection of individual decisions, but also as a response to a powerful cultural, economic, and institutional forces that shape how people think about marriage, family, and parenthood. Right. So there's some people that are, pushing the propaganda. You can see that. If you don't see that, and if you truly believe that I'm having I'm just going to have two children, and that's the amount of children that I want to have. Is that plausible? What's the likelihood of that actually? Because we don't consume that kind of propaganda. My wife has a bunch of kids, and I have a bunch of kids. We don't consume that kind of propaganda. But let's say, for example, my Chinese students, right? They all have one or two children, and when I ask them, "Oh, what's the reason you only have one or two? Do you want to have another one?" No, no, no. And then they say the same story. It's very stressful. It's very expensive. The same story, literally verbatim. Like, I'm not even joking, verbatim. That is exactly the same story every time. So you can see the manufactured consent. It's very, very clear to see the manufactured consent, right? And this line of reasoning often leads to discussion of manufactured consent, a concept describing the process in which social norms and public attitudes can be influenced by media, educational systems, government policies, economic incentives, and cultural messaging. Advocates of this view contend that modern societies frequently promote lifestyles centered on consumption, career advancement, personal autonomy, and delayed family formation. While large families are portrayed as unusual, burdensome, or economically impractical, according to this argument, reproductive decisions may appear entirely individual while still being strongly influenced by a broader social environment that guides public perception and expectations. At the same time, it is important to recognize that the existence of widespread demographic trends does not by itself prove that consent has been manufactured. Fertility decline can also be explained by factors such as urbanization, rising housing costs, uh, increased educational attainment, changing economic conditions, later marriage, and advances in contraception. For this reason, a careful analyst would regard manufactured consent as one possible explanation among several, rather than as a proven conclusion. Nevertheless, the remarkable consistency of shrinking family sizes across many societies provides a legitimate basis for examining whether cultural influences have played a significant role in shaping reproductive behavior on a civilizational scale. All right, if you can read through that, right, you'll see, if you can read between the lines, you see that this poor lady, it should have had 200. That should have had 200 great grandchildren. Right? For a woman to have five children, I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? And it's really not, right? It's actually very, very, I mean, that's what women do. They bear children. That's the natural, you know, obligation, the duty, the obligatory duty of a woman is to bear children onto the civilization. The obligatory duty of a man is to, if you remember the Titanic, right? Yeah. What did they say, right? Women and children first. And where's the man going to go? He's going to go into the freezing Atlantic water and subsequently die, right? Die at the front lines of the war, right? You're fighting for your country, right? Those are the obligatory duties onto our civilization from a man. The obligatory duty from a woman um, for maintaining a civilization is childbearing. It's not even that much of a big deal. Okay, whatever. It's uncomfortable for a few months, and then after that, you have this beautiful, child that says, "I love you, mommy. I love you, daddy." It's not that big. It's not that big of a deal, And children are great, right? A baby's so cute, right? You ever see a baby? They're very, very cute. Yeah, babies are cute, right? We love babies, right? So the point is, right, is this manufactured consent? Well, this guy, that guy saying, maybe it could be, right? There's certainly, what manufactured consent looks like when Mark Carney got in, right? After the abuse that the Liberal Party gave us, and then after that, Mark Carney got in. How did he get in? I'm going to fight Donald Trump, and everybody hates Donald Trump. And then after that, that was if you can't see that that was manufactured consent to get Mark Carney in to replace Trudeau, and that was so clearly manufactured consent. Like right, that was like the textbook definition of manufactured consent. My mom is all like, "Oh, Donald Trump, I hate Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump." Well, you don't hate anybody. Why do you hate Donald Trump? Because the TV says so, right? TV says that we have to hate Donald Trump, and the TV says that Mark Carney is going to save us our sovereignty, whatever Canadian sovereignty means, right, from Donald Trump, right? That's manufactured consent. That's exactly what manufactured consent is. Of course, when your consent is being manufactured, you don't realize that your consent is being manufactured, and you think that is your own independent, that you believe, like honestly believe 100% that that is how you truly feel. Except you don't realize that somebody has, basically programmed you into feeling that way, right? It's incredible. But is this manufactured consent? Is it likely that, across the entire country, all of these, with my students, let's go back to my Chinese students, right? They say the same thing. Yeah, in China, we don't really have, it's too expensive, to have two or more children. It's very, very expensive to have two or more children. But I talk to these wealthy Chinese people, right? These wealthy industry professionals. They have money, right? They have a lot of money, right? Some of these people have, a couple, two or three homes, high-rise buildings in Shanghai and Chongqing and Shenzhen and every kind of city, Xi'an and all these nice places, high-rise, apartments, and they got a lot of money, right? They have a lot of money, and you know they will still it's such a burden. I want to give all my attention to my one child. They have the same verbatim, like I said, verbatim. What's the likelihood of that happening? Is zero, like literally zero. So this is manufactured consent. I see that, right? So to my Chinese students, right? I love my Chinese students. I'm not saying I don't. I love my students. I'm at industry. I teach business English for industry professionals, but that's my job anyway. But is this manufactured consent, right? One would be wise to say perhaps it actually is.